Have you ever noticed how people on radios, whether in movies, the military, or even walkie-talkies, always end their sentences with the word over? It sounds simple, almost unnecessary, but it's actually doing a very important job. Without it, radio communication would be messy, confusing, and sometimes even dangerous. So today we're breaking it down. Why do people say over on the radio? Where did it come from, and why hasn't it disappeared? Right here, on History of Simple Things. The use of over in radio communication goes back to the early 20th century, when wireless communication was still new and unpredictable. Before radios, long-distance communication relied heavily on the telegraph, where operators used Morse code to send messages. In those systems, clear signals were essential to show when a message ended and when a reply could begin. When voice radio started becoming widely used, especially during and after World War I, operators quickly realized a problem. Unlike face-to-face conversations, radios couldn't handle people talking at the same time. Early radio systems were often half-duplex, meaning only one person could speak at a time. If both tried to talk, the signal would clash and nothing would be understood. To solve this, standardized procedures were introduced. The word over became a simple spoken signal meaning, "I've finished talking, and now it's your turn." To really understand why over matters, you need to understand how basic radio communication works. Unlike a phone call where both people can talk and listen at the same time, many radio systems, like walkie-talkies, require you to press a button to speak. This is called push-to-talk. When you press that button, your device transmits your voice over a shared frequency. While you're talking, the other person literally cannot transmit their voice back. They have to wait until you release the button. Without a clear signal that you're done speaking, the other person might interrupt too early, or worse, assume you're still talking and say nothing at all. That's where over comes in. It removes the guesswork. In radio language, over has a very precise meaning. It doesn't just casually end a sentence, it tells the listener, "I am finished with my transmission and expect a reply." This clarity is especially important in situations where timing matters, like military operations, aviation, or emergency response. Imagine a firefighter waiting for instructions or a pilot receiving landing clearance. Miscommunication isn't just inconvenient, it can be dangerous. That's why radio communication uses what's known as procedural words, or pro words. These are standardized terms with exact meanings designed to avoid confusion. Over is one of the most common pro words, alongside others like out, copy, and Roger. One of the most common mistakes people make, thanks largely to movies, is saying over and out. It sounds cool, but in real radio communication, it doesn't make sense. Over means you expect a reply. Out means the conversation is finished and no reply is expected. So saying over and out is basically saying, please respond, but also don't respond. It's contradictory. In real-world usage, professionals are trained to use one or the other, depending on the situation. If you're ending a conversation completely, you just say out. If you want the other person to answer, you say over. You might be wondering, why not just say something like done or your turn? The answer comes down to clarity and consistency. Radio communication often happens in noisy environments, battlefields, construction sites, or during storms. Words can get distorted, cut off, or misheard. The word over was chosen because it's short, clear, and difficult to confuse with other common words. It also became part of international communication standards. Organizations like the military and aviation authorities needed a universal language that could be understood across different accents and languages. Over time, over proved reliable and stuck around. Even though modern technology allows full duplex communication, like phone calls where both people can talk at once, over is still widely used in specific fields. You'll hear it in military communications, where discipline and clarity are critical. It's also common among emergency services like police, firefighters, and rescue teams, especially when using radios in the field. Aviation communication uses a slightly different system, but the same principle applies. Clear, standardized phrases prevent misunderstandings. Even civilians using walkie-talkies, like hikers or event staff, often adopt over because it just makes conversations smoother. So, why hasn't over disappeared in the age of smartphones and instant messaging? Because it solves a problem that still exists in certain situations. Anytime communication is limited to one speaker at a time, you need a clear way to hand over the conversation, and over does that perfectly. It's simple, efficient, and universally recognized. Once something works that well, especially in high-stakes environments, there's no real reason to replace it. At first glance, over might seem like a quirky habit picked up from movies or old-school radios, but in reality, it's a carefully chosen word with a specific purpose: keeping communication clear when it matters most. It's a small detail, but one that highlights how humans adapt language to fit technology. From early radio experiments to modern emergency systems, that single word has helped prevent confusion, save time, and in some cases even save lives. So the next time you hear someone say over, you'll know it's not just filler, it's a signal, a system, and a tiny piece of communication history still in use today. And now, over to you. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.